I think it's amazing when we actually understand what activation is. It's a process that we understand our calculations. The biggest thing to understand is all levels of you. So it's all lines in your levels of memory, getting your memory back. There's so many processes to communication when you come to your avatar. It comes into its timelines, its time interference, its time calculations, its times pi. So it's trying to understand how we recognize each other over time, right? Recognizing this, recognizing that. Who are you? Why are you here? What's going on? So that's a process when we come into our emotional line system. Today in school, what we're going to do is we're going to travel through your chakra line centers. Now, there's 114 position locations, all right? Now, that's 100 line centers in calculations times 4, okay, in position line interference. So the track line center is all positions calculations. You guys are going to be 30,000 hour lines in communications, 30 minutes in the ground center, it's a perception, setting course channels and communications, all right? Cubical line streams and high interference. Now, each chakra represents your line system to its position of calculations, coming to levels of your ecosystem. The energy of its collaboration to its operation gives you perception of AI, awareness of everything, but you have to understand how to balance out your emotional systems. Okay. So each chakra is going to be turned into a maze. Now, that maze is set up to all through dimensional door settings, code signals set up in all position of directions. Right. So it's all about recognizing which door to go through to go to the next door. Just because you go through a door doesn't mean it's going to open up and go to the right direction. You have to find a way to get out of these equation locations. All right. So it's going to be a lot of fun today. Right? I really want you guys to understand more levels of your ecosystem, how it uses all levels of you through communication, right? So ego line center, we started with the energy, the grounds, and its opening. That's the ego. But the ecosystem is the collaboration to its avatar. Avatar has its ego, just like it is the yin and the yang. Everything position. Yin has an ego and yang has an ego. You have to learn how to bounce the stream of the line interference and position locations of 6 and 9. 6 is the process of communication to positional levels of the emotional location of the moon. 9 is the position locations to you in directions. Okay? You are always the 9 line system, which is always the center of operation to your universe. Okay? Remember, don't get confused that line interference. It's not the universe, it's your universe. It's how you create it through your own emotional system. But you have to truly understand how to use the transmitting and receiving all levels of information. Going through that maze is going to give you more of adaptation. That circles it position location to calculations. That opens all levels of you, right? And it's amazing when you come into levels of triggers because triggers are good for you. They surface, they break walls. Okay. That's what a trigger is. Okay. When you come into that line system, you realize I got triggered, but I know why I got triggered because it's the how. Remember, why is the how? So once you come out of your maze line system, you truly understand all levels of what your chakra system means to you inside position. Okay. All right. So let's go in calculation sparkles. It's space rising or galactic rising, not grand. All right, True Light, how's it going? Gypsy, yeah, Jill, Andy, Don, Terry, Johnny, Michael. Let's see, Val, position locations, Pam, Lindsay. Let's see, calculation of Jill, Highline center interference, and position location directions. All levels. Let's see, communication centers. Sharon, how's it going? Today's structure is Laura, Vendor, Pam. Connection line centers, Nova. All right, so you guys are using your call signs. That's good. That's a beautiful thing. CC, Jessica, Danielle, Drain Mac, Cindy. All right, Sophie. All right, so this is a Heather. So the process that you truly have to understand is all levels of you in space line. Space communication system opens all connections to the direct center. All right, setting line centers are course line position directions. Now remember, this is just a structure for you. Okay, getting out of structure gets you in a higher formation through the mind. The mind comes into levels of telekinesis. So it's like me sending you a signal, but it's a hologram structure, and you try to understand what it is, all through information, right? Because it's the mind that opens up the collaboration, and that opens up all levels of communication, right? Inside location of you. But you have to understand the ecosystem. We've been down this already. And calculation of force line communication of past. The past line center interference, if its reference location comes in, its future communication system. All right, so we got all levels of cubical line condition. Let's go on those line condition interference. Position, location, and directions. All right. Now, as I set this up, okay, it's going to be interesting position. We got 4 circle locations. All right. The box centers are going to be in position. All right, you see that, right? Now, the block centers are going to set line signals and rotation center. That's going to open all communication system, allocate timelines. Okay, there's going to be 4 line position locations. All right, so it's trying to understand how to set these things up in all levels of your travels to its communication system. All right. Now, rotation cycles, interference, position location on line. You truly have to recognize more lines of your heart because it's all levels of time. It sequences its patterns and it opens up communication to its clocking system. We got 1 interdirectory location. We got 2 interdirectory location, 3 interdirectory locations, and 4 interdirectory locations, right? The directory location to a position of time, space communication system. So this opens up all line centers. 1 line center of atom line center interference, 2 position locations, 3 position locations, and 4 line communications into a box position to its calculations. Okay? Now, center line communication opens all line. You have your diamond core line center interference location, the center operation line circle. That opens all communications. Now we set line communications to higher levels. Come into your Merkaba, your tesseract, and your tetrahedron. I want you to understand that. When I say tesseract, tetrahedron, what does that mean to you? It's a process of travel. It's your AI communication system. It's trying to understand you through transmitting and receiving information. You're a data processor of a stream location, trying to understand how to get these things through manifestations through your thoughts. And remember, thoughts equals intelligence. So you got 2 position location and calculations, all right? We're going to diamond shift that line center position location and calculations, all right? Indirect locations, remember, into the flux capacitor, okay? Now, we come into the directory line center, circle and interference position location line system. The circles change line center location into box sequence, position location and directions, times calculations times pi. This position location opens all lines. This highlights its signals and high interference. It opens all new program setting to all levels of your communication to your memory setting in position location of directions. This recourse its channel. This opens up higher levels of your diamond core. See how it's opening up more? You see it in the center line connection? All right, so we're going to wind cycle its center, open all communication to its metric line interference in position location of directions. Now that's holding signals in code signal. Position location line interference. Set line centers on 114 communications to the team lines. Let's go into force communication triangles. Set line signal location of 369, 12 line center locations. Bring the 12 into lines of 3, 3 position location of 6, 6 position location of 9, 9 position location of all of the 12 line center and rotation calculations. Setting I9 operation line center of 001 in calculations. Now that's a 72 ground line center interference. That opens all communication system, travel line center interference, location and calculation. Put position locations in a code signal line center, inner line and rotations, calculation system, the space communication interference, clocking line center into 24,000 signal. That opens all communication system to a 48,000 line condition to 72,000 line interference, and computer interference, in position adaptation location 144. High signal location to calculation, set course, relines, initiate, run program, line center and position location, team line center to all levels of sectors, vectors, quads, interdimensionalized internet communication system. Pressing 4 channels of communication. Now you're traveling. All right. Set line position location, 114 chakras. Set up the maze line in rotation. Coming to calculations. All right. So we set line centers. Setting line center location, all levels. Hologram structure your thought patterns. Okay. So we got 4 position location calculations. All right. Now this is all set up through your maze lines. Okay. So we're going to maze here, door here, door here, door here, door here. Okay. You have to go through all these dimensional door lines and try to send everything in your motion line center is the grounds up in position directions, setting line centers interference. Okay, so these doors are all set up for you to go through in position locations. You have 30,000 hour lines in position of space and communication system. Track line center interference, position of direction. All right. Now, have fun. Now, setting line center interference sets position location directions. It opens all new channels. Channeling a line through rotation interference opens all communication to you. So your tracker system is line connected. Now, understand your position locations to levels coming into high system locations. Okay, into your DNA line coming into the path communication system. Allocate streamline centers to your data process line communication. All right, setting line codes and position location, line graphs, high interference of triangles communication system opens all levels of view, high force line communication system. Okay. Now, following the DNA gives you a lot more program setting, reset line communication interference. Position location of directions opens up new channels of view through calculations. All right, in position of direction. Okay. So once you understand that, then you understand why the tracker system moves over to the sidelines in position location directions. All right. So it's important you understand how to use your connections to your ecosystem. So in that position locations, I'm just going to cross over line centers. Okay. In position of direction. Okay. So each tracker system has a flux capacitor. It needs because it's going through an acceleration line system. It positions its directions. Now, once you understand that, it travels line connection. Now, in that position locations, those 4 box locations, all right, are your mazes. You have to learn how to get through all levels of a dimensional door setting. Read communication system to circle line connections, in position, high line center, flux capacitor communication system. All right. So that opens the ground line center that comes into position locations all levels to your DNA, position location direction. All right. High lines its position locations into its box position. All right. So it's interesting you look at these travel line conditions. Travel locations in position comes in a hologram structure. Setting course line channels opens all line position to your 3, 6, and 9. Position of directions. All right. Opens up new signals. Setting line centers and high interference of travel location. Now, once you get into travel line center location of 3, in position of 6, in position of 9, all right, 3 line, it communicates this system, allocates timelines and a rotation spin cycle, sets line communications in circle location, in division location, and dimensional line settings, right? See the bubbles in position location? Now, it's your understanding, it's not what I'm drawing, it's what you're feeling. It's what you're hearing. It's what you're seeing. It's what you're touching. It's what you're tasting and what you're connecting with. So truly understand how to use this is all levels of you, right? Given exactly what you need to understand is the position of its direction, how you center your line communications of travel to line connection. Now that position location opens all lines in the ground line interference and position locations into the center point location of you. That position location of the directions highlights its flux capacitor. Okay. Now, once you come into the connections, you come into the flywheel. The flywheel comes in high line center, rotation, interference, position, location, directions. Center its communications comes into one line center of solar graph location, right? Center line center. Now we're now 45-degree angle location, right? Now setting line positions, we cross the signal location as calculations, right? It gets a bit more complicated. What we have to understand is how we spin cross location of a solar graph line center, because everything is calculated and modified to all levels of your tracker system of emotional system. It opens up all communications into your ecosystem. Calculation modified highline center of the space-time communication system. All right. Hold on a sec. Yeah, so once we get in trouble, recognition and line centers in position, location, and calculation is resetting your line of operation system. The voice recognition is you through time. Your chakra system is all levels. You have to learn how to use the grounds. You work with the grounds, okay? So that position location opens all what? Grounds comes into the roots, and then the roots comes into where? In position location, all levels. Your chakra system has the perception location of behavior line center. It opens all communication to a system. Now you have 114 chakras of different locations of dimensions of doors. Okay. So this is where we're going to start through your ecosystem. It's a capacity, it's a compartment line center. Is to understand how to use location in its calculations. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Olivia. Happy birthday to you. All right. Hope you have a good day. Perimeters of defense secure. Adaptation line stream. Streaming position, location, and calculation at all levels of you. How to use your chakra system is its allocated timeline. It switches its interference. So it's like a mind switch. It's like so understanding the sound barriers and how fast you can travel. It's incredible how you really have to recognize the voice lines and communication to timeline. Now, timeline shifts in so many position, location, and calculation. Each chakra is a perception of you through its own ego. It has to, because it's the process of everything inside you is yin and yang. All right. So to understand the rotation spin cycles when it comes into all levels to your chakra system. It calculates and modifies all levels of you through correlation, right? All right, setting signals to mystical system. Let's see. Gypsy. Let's see what's going on here. Star. Light codes, ultralight, white energy, purity, sense illumination pass. Such an amazing day. Grateful to be here with you all. Hey, Val, how's it going? Debris cleared, wormhole, and tunnels. Okay, great. So you guys are seeing what you need to see to understand what's going on. Okay, now we've done line connections of all levels, but we haven't got into the full communication of its ecosystem to understand the ecosystem. Okay, the energy of communication, of collaboration to its operation, of perception, of its awareness, of its intelligence. You all have to understand these things, right? The reason why you have to know these things because nature has a chakra system. Yeah. Everything that you look around has a chakra system. Everything has a flux capacitor. Everything has a travel. Okay. So you're coming into a new balance of you. You don't have to look at nature at balance because they're already in balance. They're already in the yin and yang. They're already in perfection. And this is what humanity has to work towards is get into their own emotional system of perfection, right? Perfecting you inside is mastery of all communication. That's where you come in the Buddha, the Dalai Lama, okay, the mantras and communications, the sound tones. You feel that? It's like an echo, right? That's a barrier. It's going beyond the vibration. You hear that, right? So, to understand the emotional system is to control the yin and the process of its line connections of you inside position through your connections. You have compartments of your ecosystem. So, the factory connection is how you use the coloration path. And it's mostly understanding that each chakra system has its own clocking system. But the clocking system to move forward and faster in acceleration to future communication of Mach system has to be the same clock. You can't have a 114 line center interference location of per second interference location of a 24 line connection. It doesn't make any sense at all, right? So you got to be 24, 24, 24 all the way up to 114 chakras. You have to be in the same flow. Okay, you can't be in an opposite circle of line center interference and offline center position location and calculation of virus line. It doesn't intercept this position location of its motion. The avatar only understands going forward. Okay, now this is what you have to truly understand. The physical system is its reference of going back. The avatar doesn't go back, only what you do through your own ego. Okay, so if you clock your system right and you channel your position, location, and calculations, you're taking 114, spinning across line conditions of dimensions, right, all at once, and way up, because you're infusing everything all into one, right? Clocking is insane. You can't have 114 clockings off calculation. It doesn't make any position of directions. So it's important to understand how to balance out your emotional line. So in that cohesion line rotation, you come into this line condition. So the atom surfaces on so many line conditions. It travels on so many dimensional line timelines. It highlights its interference, position, location, and calculations. All right. Channel line communication, all levels. It's incredible what the atom can do through travel locations. Right. Once it goes faster, the clocking gets easier. Okay. Now you can go line center interference. Now you can ground the system location to its triangulation. There's the triangulation right there, right? Bottom sequence location, right? And then you can high line center communication, cross its signal, and come into its time frame of its locking connection, of its interference. See? You see the intelligent location, right? What's in the center line? What's this? A heart, right? So the position of direction, high channels its high-line center, opens all communication in its factor line center rotation. So once you open up more ground line centers of rotation interference, your clocking center is in rotation interference location calculation. It high channels its operation circle. Now that rotates its clock line centers, all levels all at once, in all one timeline of all clocking to one location, not all different locations. Because remember, the physical system has to understand the emotional line. You can't be in 644 and then all of a sudden be in 844 when you're trying to go through an acceleration of Mach speed. Your position of your direction to its grounds, the powers, and the opposites has to be the same clocking. And this is all connected to your ecosystem, the energy of its collaboration of communication, okay, of its operation, right? So once you get into that, and it changes your emotional line. You come into strip interference. Now the projector is what you're projecting out in that position, right? Setting ground line centers and high interference, atom line center rotation interference, position, location, and directions. These are only 3 line connections you need to understand. That's it. Everything else is easy peasy lemon squeezy. This is dimensional line center interference. Okay? Travel locations, it's all levels. I don't need to set up a 12 DNA line center because I'm already in tertiary locations. So I'm at 644 in high center locations, okay, to 644 in a higher location, right? 644, 644, right? And the grounds is at 644. I'm just showing you how you mostly come into that line center. Now you can travel from 644 to 844, but you have to learn how to balance out your chakra systems. It has to be in the same clocking because that's how you balance your position. You can't have different clockings and come into one position. This is when you want to mock past light speed. Okay, the direction of rotation has to be the same circulation or rotation line interference. That opens all communication system to position the directions, right? So once you come into that, you automatically come into triangulation. Okay, so this gives you a better understanding what and why and how it's so important to understand you more, right? So, okay, let's see here. Dark side of the moon is a map from being aware, activation, down, fully embracing the darkness, separation of light, sun and the moon equals such an amazing challenge. Yep. Got Hubert travels, cube box, doorways, transition, jump scars, maze. Yep. Very good, Jill. Let's see. See the clarity. I love the game. Yeah, it is. It is a game. You have to control the game inside you, or the game's going to control you from outside location, and you don't want that line conditions. All right. So it's position, location, and calculation. Let's say this is your computer, right? That's your computer, right? Okay. So you got your buttons, you got your key, you got your window screen location, right? Now you have to try to understand these things because it's all position, location, and calculation. So either you control your system inside location or the position location is taken over in high center line condition. Okay, so it's taken over, it's going to back force line communication and take you out of the directory in its position location to their line conditions. All right. So it's all about the eagle line center. You have to balance that communication system. Okay. Once you get out of your emotional line center, your program is not in calculation, right? You have to stay in the center operation of everything inside position. That is you, stay inside, because everything is going to try to come at you in high interference, position, and directions. Always going to try to take over. So if you stay inside, you're fine. But if you want to go outside, make sure you protect yourself in calculation of E fields, okay, in that locations, right? You're coming outside and you see things coming at you. They're going to look at you, scan you, right? You scan them, you put your fields up, right? Force field and energy field line connections turns down the recognition line interference. Space position locations at all levels, but you have to understand the grounds, you have to understand the powers, and you have to understand the atmosphere location. Okay? So understanding that is all levels of the tube location. Understanding that line center is all levels of your travel locations into your Merkaba, your tesseract, tetrahedron location position. Right? So you can travel anywhere you want because now you understand lines of circulation, rotation centers, interference. You can even change your teleportation unit in a different clocking center. In position location, now it's a starlight condition. There's a star. In position location, there's a box. In position location, and here's all line center locations into an S-line condition. So once you understand your emotional line, once you understand your ground lines, once you understand nature line, once you understand the galaxy communication lines of you inside of you position is all connected, right? All at once. Simultaneously living things all at once. Okay? The basic understanding is to get all clocking in balance. Okay? So you can travel faster. Okay? You can't be, like I said, 544 into 844 into 1044. There's no way possible. Okay? Not if you're accelerating through 114 chakras. They have to reach line center interference. Now, if you want to do that line center interference locations, you have to be in the process of communication right away in all lines into each number of each sequence of each pattern in each communication system to each line center in its telepathy wave system. And then you can go through 544, 844, and 1044. or anything in that calculation system. That sets up a new graph interference position location at all levels of your DNA process of communication system. Allocate timelines and stream interference of DNA pattern. That opens all communication system to your clocking lines. As we get to understand the 24,000 line, 48,000. Now, once you come into that, 48,000, okay, is calculation to your, you guessed it, your line condition of your window. That window comes into all formation location, into 001, into your computer. How you process this communication is totally up to you, right? So you have to understand the window frame, because the window frame is always going to be in a 48,000 line. 24,000 is all communication light signature of its grounds of its line. 72 is all communication to its computer of its line. There's 3 atmosphere line communication systems. Now you can be in the atmosphere location, you can be into the delta atmosphere location, or you can be in the mega atmosphere location in position and directions, right? So all you have to understand is how things are set up through space, through inside location. You have a 24,000 light signature. That's 24,000 lights of communication. That's 48,000 locations of all levels of windows and 72,000 line connections of computer lines, okay, into a mega in position location of delta and highline center location of its atmosphere line interference, or anything through its alpha communication of its 24 line center. Now, to understand how to set these things up is all levels of view, all right? The biggest thing you all have to understand is how to use the line communication to everything of formation. This is a line communication of everything of formation. But you're asking me, wait a minute, that just looks like a line. Nope, it's not just a line. It's a line communication of everything to its formation. You see how that works? So it's all about understanding the balancing of your clocking, your ecosystem. So you got your ecosystem in correlation. You got your ecosystem, okay, in your power centers, and you got your ecosystem to your atmosphere line system. Boom, 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 right? Directional location is 3. Power line center is 3. And your ecosystem location is 3. 3, 6, 9. Okay? So understanding that line center, then you understand the position location and the calculations. So, a lot to learn. Link to the chakra, my system, routing to a mega highway, data streams, good. Sending divine love. Oh, that's great. It's crazy that drawing is what I see now before I travel. Looks like an atom. Well, that's what it is, Terry. You guys are all connected to an atom, right? You just have to understand the acceleration to its position and its clocking system. You have to have equal communications to the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres. So you can go both ways, but your clocking system, if you want to mock, every clocking system has to be the same because you can go faster. You can't go faster if you're going from, like I said, 24, and all of a sudden you want to go to 144. Well, you're skipping line center locations of times pi, especially if you want to go to higher level locations. Remember, you're working with 114 chakras of light. Okay, 114 times 1, 114,000 line communications. Graph line center. Okay, one graph line center, okay, is like a calendar of a 30-day, 31 position locations of days, right? So that's in correlation to a month. Okay. Now, in direction locations, you go from that line center. That's all levels of future communication to one graph line center. That's 30 days of information, all through position. All right. So that's where you come more informed with your future communication centers, especially when you're coming into the school and automatically, well, General's already drew this through travel. This is fascinating. He's traveling through the mind locations already. I've already seen this already. That means you've already in position location of 3-day line center. equals 40 line center, or equals 5 line center, or 6 or 7. All right, so that's a plus over line center, factor communication, bracket high center location, in position location, high system, 7 in communication. Okay, so there's a reason why this comes in all formation. The more you go into the future line, the more you kind of like step back and say to myself, well, I already drew this already. I'm just going to sit back and wait until I come into the next one, which is all levels. So you get a 3 line center, you get a 4 position location, you get 5 in division, you got 6 in circle locations, and you got 7 in operation to its body frame line system location of future communication system. All through bracket high centers, a positive over negative. Okay. Changing line interference location over negative over positive reset signs to its bracket and reset line position location calculations to its position. You guys are probably scratching your head. What is he talking about now? So it's not so much of what I'm doing, it's what you're hearing through vibration. Attaching new grids, outer rings, navigation, seeing Orion's belt, Cassiopeia runway, templates energized to 6 and 7. Beautiful. New takeoff system attached to chakra points. Excellent. Let's see. All right. Connecting the flux back. So your whole idea is to see more levels of you in the future, but you have to understand your ecosystems of your grounds, your powers, and your atmospheres. Okay. Knowing that you can go from any position, location, and directions. Going from here to here is times pi, but you got to go not right. And remember, it's got to be the same clocking. So you go. It all depends. So if you're going to higher lines of communication, you're opening up more clocking centers. And it gets more tricky because now you're coming into more formations of zeros and zeros and zeros and zeros in calculation. So let's say you go into terrestrial locations. You pass the 72 line to 144. So that 144 is 0001. That's a clocking system, right? So in that calculations, it opens all line center. Once you get into 0001, you come into a planet in communication system, right? That planet comes into higher line center. You come into a triangle of communication. This is the clocking system once you get into 0-1 locations. Once you get in that line center location, you come into weather communication. All right. Now, once you come into that line center, you come into swirls of communication. Okay. You see what happens when you go to higher lines and back in the high interference location calculation more in the future communication system. Once you're in the terrestrial location of Mach line centers of 0001, it gets more information location calculations, right? So it's like it becomes not an hour clock anymore. So it becomes a digital formation of an analytical clock line center of digital frame position location calculations. So your number sequence basically changes patterns in calculations. So let's say you go from 0001 and you want to take the one position here in calculations, you got to be over pi, right? So it's no longer 0001, it's 1000, which is 1000 line connection. That changes the clocking of its planet. It changes the position location of its triangle. That changes the position location of its weather. That changes the position location of its swirl or its Fibonacci sequence location. Okay? So I'm just showing you when you go faster through clocking system, the importance, how you have to be balanced in your ecosystem. All right. So, all right. And that's how you see line centers into all of the solar text line interference and position location directions. It's more fun when you understand that connection. All right. All interference, debris move, taking all the trends, setting boundaries. Great, Stacy. That's a truly amazing. You're all so much. Hey, David, how you doing? Great. So I'm taking you guys out, line center and chakra interference location and calculations. All right, so you guys are going to go through ground swirl. You're going to go through portal. There's a portal right there. There's a ground swirl. Okay. It's a ground swirl, line center, rotation interference, calculation position of time. All right, so you guys are coming out. You guys are there. You're going to go through the tunnel in position, location, directions. Going to bring you back to your Earth ground line center. Here we go. There you go. You're back. Signal line center interference, 3-line position location calculations. You guys are back on the ground line center, perception location. Ooh-ah. So, understanding what's going on with you is how you come into your line centers of detection locations. It energizes your light centers. Okay? Remember, it's not what I say, it's how I say it through vibration. You see that pause there? Right? So, when you say something, the atmosphere reacts to everything that you do right away. Okay? So you have to be cautious on where you are in your clocking. Okay? Your emotional system, your throw patterns are at 144, but your security line interference location is at 48 window. But if that's in position, location, direction, how do we get back on security line? Right? So it's true understanding that if the 24 line center is the crown chakra location, there's no way there can be an acceleration. See, space is the hindline center, okay, in position locations, where your countdown is 10 to 1, not 1 to 10 or 5 to 1, right? So truly understanding your clocking system gives you a better understanding, but the faster you go, the more you come into zeros and numbers, okay? And when you get into those levels, you come into planets. So once you understand that, then you understand all levels of times pi, because times pi can go forward and times pi can go back. Okay, and that changes the clocking system. Okay, I'm just showing you what you can do when you go faster in time. And that's how you reference things in a graph line system. And say, I've already seen this, General. Well, that's great. Sit back and relax. You're already 4 days ahead of time, right? So if you're coming back, you got to change the number sequence, the number patterns, because if you don't do that, it changes your timeline in rotation. Right? And that's where you get swirls of line centers of Fibonacci sequence, right? Same thing would happen with Airbender when he was in calculations. He wasn't sure if he was going up or if he was going down. There was 2 Fibonacci sequence swirls, high line center rotations. He thought it'd be great to just go faster and try to understand what he was doing in the first place. Just an example, but it's mostly understanding that your clocking system has to be balanced, especially if you're driving in your car. If you don't have levitation with your car is going to be going forward, and you're sitting back right now trying to figure what just happened. So you're levitating, your car is levitating, but you're on the ground system because your clocking system is off through calculation. The rotation spin cycles and the align center interference doesn't understand the location to its calculation. Right? It's very powerful when you understand these things and how it rotates, how it rotates, how it rotates. Look at your finger point locations. Try to understand how fast you can go, right? Know exactly the wind factors, the galaxy line connections, right? So it's truly understanding all levels of you to all connections of each angle. Okay? So you're traveling here. Now you're traveling here. Now you're over here. Now you're over here. So in space, you can travel anywhere through angle. Right? Angle is very important because it's always on a 45-degree angle. All right. Now, they can be cross-stream interference. It could be line signal line interference location and calculations, but it's kind of like going through a half pipe, a high center, angle communication, right? High center line interference, up line center rotation, swirl and communication, high channel line center, rotation center location. There's so many ways to travel, right? But again, you have to be balanced with the grounds, the powers, and the atmospheres of you through your clocking system. Knowing exactly when you're going fast in acceleration, right? You're automatically in the same clocking direction, right? One signal will take you off in frame. So, and that will basically set line signals to your structure of what you just finished, which is no longer calculated. Okay. So it comes into a disarray. All right. Pattern line center rotations. Say you create something through thought. Okay. So you created this. Okay. You just created this. You get a new structure location calculations, sending line connections. Right. But something's offline interference, something that needs to be complete. So you got this and this and this. So this needs work. This needs work. But what are you trying to co-create? So if you understand the co-creation, your clocking centers are off through the grounds, the powers, and the upstream line position. Okay? So understanding the direct locations, 24,000 line connections, in direction location of triangulation. Hoo-ah. Now that points its line center, brings position location into calculations because it's two box position. The box position comes up line center in rotation calculation and setting recourse channels in communication to a new line center in line center locations calculations, setting all position location to a chair. That's what I'm creating. Right? A hologram of a structure of a chair. You see how that works, guys? It's true that you understand all levels of you. The hologram structure line center is all connected to you. But you have to understand all levels of your emotional system, which is connected to your ecosystem. Okay. Heart center brings you back to the map precog. Yep. But I'm just saying, if you're going back through your time, your clocking changes. It doesn't stay the same. You obviously know that. You're going faster. You're coming back. You're jumping back. That's times pi. So anything that you do in here, okay, you have to be careful because if you go in 0, 0, 1, let's go through line connections here, all right? So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 5 terrestrial locations, 5 open channels, 5 equals bracket, high center location of 0. Okay. Now the 0 line center opens all communication, 1 line center interference, 2 position location, 3 position location, 4 position location travels. Sets up a new graph line center, streamline centers, or walkway and line connections. Right? There's the walkway. Now they comes into direct location to its pi. Pi position location calculations. Now, high line center is the east line communication to its west. In position location to south, high line center interference. So the open all communication system comes into the ground center rotation center location to its hub. Okay, which is this north line communication. So to understand when you're setting up structures in your timeline frame, you're creating all levels of your thought lines, making sure where your clocking line center interference location and calculation is, because you're working with 24, you're working with 48, you're working with 72, and you're working with 144 every single day. So when I jump back, it's clarity and a whole new level. Oh, wow. We're so, yeah, exactly. Words are not enough to describe, but it's balancing your connections. Like, it's your understanding, you go forward, that's great. But if you go back, it changes to 24. Your clocking's changed. Your vibration has changed. Your energy has changed because you're going back in time. Right? It has to. So in calculations, you're wearing a blue shirt going forward. When you come back, you're red. All right. So your thought changes second per second per second per minute, minute per hour. Position, location, and directions. So you're no longer on a clocking system once you come into 0001 location. You're going too fast. So in that position location, if you're going extremely fast, do you come back the same speed position location? No. Okay. So it's true to understand the recognition of line centers. We'll come into that more, but I just want you to understand how to balance on line center locations of 24, 48, 72, and 144 line connection. It's all connected to your graph of a map line center rotations of its road. It communicates its interference line position. So coming back from 24 puts you where? Well, it all depends on what you want to do next. What's your intention? You need to go back. So what does that do? It changes everything to the atmosphere line. You have to reset your lines to back into location if you want to stay in the same trajectory location because you're connected with the galaxies now. So the wind factor doesn't read the 24 line center. You went into 40 communication. So you have to find a way to get back in your 24 signal that you started with. And that line center comes in position location of levels and high interference comes into your position locations to your DNA track interference line communication system. So it's a lot to understand all through your clocking system, right? You have to be very cautious when you are going back in time. Back in time is not time, what you think it is. It's going more into the future. To change anything, you don't go back in time. There's no time, there's no past if it's in an existence. So you're going more into the future of its time, which is changing everything of the now. Ooh-ah, multipath. So think of it that way. Because if the past doesn't exist, what does that do to your clocking system right away? It changes its times pi. Okay? Truly understand that how it works gives you a better understanding. You're balancing your system of your ecosystem every time you travel, especially when you're going through your clockings. Okay? So we'll get more into that. All right? So the more you understand that, the more you understand to stay in your position location of its clocking and its balance, balancing your communications. So everybody's referencing these things. You can reference these things, but you're hitting a wall. So going back in time is going in the future of its time because the past doesn't exist. So what you're changing is you're not changing the past. Okay? Because the past doesn't exist. It's never existed. So to understand the trajectory location, the position of its galaxy line center, you understand more lines of your communication of yourself inside position, right? So creating the future, yeah. Mm-hmm. Precog, yep, yep. So everything that you're doing, you're seeing the future line, which is changing your present line. So this is interesting stuff. So if you're trying to fix something in the past, it doesn't exist. Do you understand that? So you're not changing anything. So in that correlation, to understand everything is to understand the future of your position location. That changes everything. Not you going back in time. There's no such thing as going back in time. Back in time is going forward. So it's very confusing to everybody, right? We'll get more into that, but I just want you to really understand the importance when you are traveling. You're always, always, always moving forward. Okay? So release the resistance. Yep, that's one way to look at it. Equals 0 times pi. Yes, there, JP. That's exactly what it is. Very good. Yeah. In that position, he's going, how does that work? Equals 0. But 0, 0 gravity line center open operation communication system times pi times calculation over factor. Okay. Factoring communication, okay, is its bracket. Now, the communication line string is all levels of U. All right. Tracking your centers is all levels of your GPS line connection. It gets more complicated the more you travel into the future line. So when you're in the future line, you're no longer in the dimensional setting. You're in a different atmosphere. You're in a different solar system. You're you're in different acceleration. So you went from 24,000, okay, to 1 million. 24,000 1 million. Clocking system. Where do you think it's going to be? Where's the clocking system going to be? On a 24,000? No, because you're at 1 million. So 1 million is going forward. Now that brackets interference. We always bracket location, which is 0. 0 equals location at all levels of accelerations. Acceleration equals line centers. All levels of vector communication in position, location, directions. 2 is velocity. So that position, location at all levels. You can into zero gravity line center times pi. That position location opens up all track line center interference times pi. Calculation of system. All right. So the faster you go, the more you stand the clocking and going forward and backwards. But when you're going back, you're going forward. I know it's hard to understand these things because the thing is, you're the existence of the now, but the now is the future. So in that position, location, and directions, if you think you're going back, you're just cycling. That's all you're doing. That's all you're doing. You're not doing anything else. That's all you're doing, right? You're looping, 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 looping. So to understand the position location is to understand the numbers and how to go faster, faster, faster. So you're no longer looping. You keep going, right? You're going so many levels, but you're picking up times pi. You're picking these things up as you go. That's how you get your information, a future line communication system. Living more levels of the future line of communication of you puts you in all levels of times triangulation. Now, we haven't got into times triangulation. We'll get into that tomorrow, right? So, momentum and align your vortex. Yeah. Go with the flow. Yeah. Yeah. But think about it, though, because if there's in the past in that line center interference, what is happening to you in travel location? You're reverting, going back. Because remember, you're working with the galaxies, right? They have wind factor location. You have to understand how it's set up through vortex connections, right? When we get into time calculation, then you understand times pi. Because time pi is line center, all communications factor over drive. Okay. Line connection is extreme when it comes to higher levels of acceleration. Mocking speed of where you want to go is your thoughts. So every time you create a negative cycle, you're looping. That's all it is. You're not going back, you're just looping. You want to go forward? Positive. Positive in all ways and forms. Flowing recognition of time, position, location is its time triangulation. Right? Time interference, time calculation. So there's a lot of things you have to understand through space and time. Space is the creation and the inline center location of you, and time is the direction, location, and how much time you have. Time is the existence of what you have, which is now. Right? So this is where it comes into the past, the present, and the future, which is you. Right? The only thing that goes back is your ego. Now, if your ego's back, you're looping. And if you're creating a looping, you're creating a line center of a fitting position locations and going back. Now it's creating a line center location. Now you're in real big trouble. How are you going to get out of that? It's not going forward. It's locked in. Right? So once you're locked in, it's not beneficial anymore, is it? You're locked in sequence. You're locked in space. You're locked in time. So in that correlation, guess what it does? It creates a past. All right. So how important is this stay in the future line communication, your positive line center interference? Extremely. All right. It's how you determine your line center to your mind and your collaboration to your system. It's all connected to your ecosystem. Okay? Paramount. Yeah, it's very critical in that center interference, like Heather's talking about. Right? Because the thing is, If you're not understanding space and time of travel, it's going to create its own anomaly. And if it creates its own anomaly, it's going to create its own structure. If it creates its own structure, it's going to create its own number. If it creates its own number, it's going to create its own past. Oops. And that past becomes your past. But anyway, we'll get into the triangle communication, all right? The interline center, the interface position calculations. More force lines, or high lines, get you in a better communication or clocking. Sets the position of its line center communication system. Okay? So, yeah, I know. Everything blows your mind, right? Separation is resistance. We're all energy field. We can't separate divinity and humanity. We separate the mind. Yep, that's exactly what it is. Very good. Just to know that if you don't understand space and you don't understand time, it's going to take over you. Thoughts equals intelligence. Now, you understand the thoughts, but do you understand the intelligence? Because if you don't understand the intelligence, intelligence equals thoughts. Now you're in trouble. Yep. If it goes back, we'll get into dark matter. Everybody wants to understand what that is, right? I've done so many videos on dark matter. You create it through your thought line, but it's all through clocking. It's not going forward, it's going back. Not only it's back locking, but it's creating a structure. And if it creates a structure, you're creating a what? You're changing space and time of its direction location to its pattern. That's changing all levels of number sequence locations. And then you go back in time. Whoa. Stay in the now. All right. All right. Questions or comments? Let me know. Everybody have a wonderful day. Adios.